Welcome to TradeDMBI.com. This is John. This report is for the 21st. Welcome to winter, and the cold breeze blew in on the market for just a brief moment. As much as people were talking about the dramatic nature of it, not really anything that surprises us. We had talked about positive extremes that had been building here, and that we were way escalated from an angle of ascent that needed a move that would soften things back towards the 76, not even close to the 76. Literally, actually, if we had the ABMs on there, we really just came back to the ABM gold level. No real shock with that. We had seen the steel dip below cyan. That's usually the weakest point you get within cyan under red. And once we started to dip below the negative 13.5, that really accelerated. We saw it early on the well, 5 minute as well as even 50K charts started to spell a little bit of concern. Now, what is it all related to? Some of it's just normal profit taking, but the world got a little hotter. You have this situation in Yemen that is pretty much going to close off, the Red Sea. That's going to have an impact on oil. And if things accelerate, of course, the U.S. has sent, most of the little fleet over there to, defend against, sort of a Barbary pirate situation again. But just the threat of it will have a chilling effect on transportation. Of course, not really impacting, Russian oil shipments and that. They sort of let those go through. It's just focused on Western countries and blocking trade, or at least slowing it down, making it too expensive to make a move. You counter that with the fact that, Treasury is now still outside. So, of course, that still wants to promote money going into the market, because the drop off in yields has been dramatic relative to where actually the Fed is. So, bond market front running that one quite significantly in expectation of significant rate drop. And that would necessarily play into itself, except for as oil begins to accelerate, you're going to shoot inflation back up. And if you get a significant rise in oil through any one incident, and wow, things change real fast. And this is something we've been talking about, being aware of the macro concerns. Of course, then you had the release of information that, China informed, the U.S. that they will reunify Taiwan now. If the U.S. fleet is tied up in the, Red Sea and the Gulf over there, they're really not going to be able to do much about Taiwan now. Are we expecting an invasion of Taiwan? No, not really. But a naval blockade over there certainly would have an impact. And what resources would the U.S. have then to deal with that situation? It can get complicated really fast. And so these are the things to be prepared for. Oil, though, presenting, we had increased stockpiles and that, so production did increase significantly. But uh, any kind of supply disruption would certainly create an impact, unless you have a significant economic slowdown, in which case that would mitigate it. So you see it gets a little fun when you start putting in all the factors. And of course, you get things like the euro here, which is still way overdone given the condition of the eurozone. And that would certainly impact the eurozone as well, because very price sensitive to oil. And if oil rises, more dollars are going to be needed, which is going to put pressure on euro selling. Now, you would think that gold would spike on that one, of course, but again, we've talked about the paper derivative of the situation, and the same thing will happen with Bitcoin and the others when they start trading as ETFs in that, because it will allow for a lot of additional selling in that when the short capability for ETFs and that come through. Bitcoin performed really well. Given that broader concern in the market sell-off, which is interesting because a lot of times when when the market sells off, Bitcoin has been with it. Not in this case. We're starting to see that definite separation of its independence, and of course the excitement building towards you get the halving next year of mining, as well as potential ETF approval. We did not see the same effect from ETH, so literally big difference between the two from a performance standpoint at that particular stage. When we look at it from our 50K standpoint, it wasn't anything too dramatic. We had positive extremes going back from right here. and then a series of them that began up at the secondary move that took place right in here. And all we did was fill back. We expected to move towards 50%. At that particular point, we'd be able to see it. The early spike here of the MBI white was countered by the fact that MBI magenta pretty much stayed clear. We had the start of it right there that moved us back to the 76%, but the turnaround was pretty darn fast on rising gold at that particular stage. And once it flattened out and made new highs, but again, additional positive extremes, and then that dip of steel as well, coupled with DOC spread right at that magenta line, really literally at the peak point right in there, and that led to the cascade that just once it started, it just and I pointed out this before that once the selling started, it would accelerate very quickly. Now you can see a strong turnaround, and all we're doing is moving back up to that previous algo level. But point out other positive extremes going back all the way from here, and then even a further set that begin just somewhere in the middle, a little bit below that in that 46 range. So in both those elements, I don't think that any of this is unhealthy or unnatural. I mean, we knew that we were performing at an accelerated rate, so this doesn't warrant any shock. It's a little bit overdue, but that's the whole point of these enthusiastic runs that get a little bit ahead of themselves. And I don't think this is all that dramatic, but the world event situation can certainly create much more drama than potentially people are giving credit for, particularly when you have the valuations that we're at now. Even with the dollar devaluation, some of that's going to be softened as far as decline, but needless to say, it can certainly have an impact. We see it here on a 5-minute chart going through that once the early sell began, we had previous MBI white spike, which was kind of modest with the magenta still staying strong, but then once the MBI white clearly took over midway around the 76% here on a 5-minute chart, and then we started to decay quickly, and the white led that whole decline all the way through. And now you get to fill back in where too many shorts pop in all at once, everyone flips to the other direction, and that creates a nice build for a turnaround, which is what we're seeing right now from a 5-minute chart. As soon as we get rid of the dip, you get to see the strength of that move. And this is the thing, is until something actually happens, a lot of it's speculation. And again, it's just a movement, particularly as we head towards holiday. Makes it easy to move things around a little bit. But when selling starts, though, particularly in late sessions, it can get explosive because there just isn't the activity and the supply to keep things moving around. But we'll keep an eye on it. As always, though, not too dramatic a change from the overall reading still. And I think that this is just what I was talking about, where you were going to get some periodic moves in between, and that the intraday portion of it would be far more telling than looking at it from the overall daily, which will catch up to it. But we knew that this is where we would see our early signs. And there you have it. That's the long and the short of it. Never mind the other political implications. We'll get into those ones probably the next couple of days, because a lot of things are going to heat up here with the election year starting up, and it looks like it's going to be an early one. So get ready for some fireworks, the excitement and added volatility. It's a little later than expected. I thought this would happen more middle of December, but it is what it is. As always, though, trade well. We'll talk to you later. Anything relevant, I'll put on the Skype chat.